Hello viewers and welcome to another episode of the Lord of the Rings The Card Game Progression Series. My name is Mitch.
And my name is Matthew.
And today we're up early to produce a certified banger of an installment in this series. Today is The Watcher in the Water. So Matthew, where did we leave off a month or so ago, and where are we headed next?
Well, Elrond is disturbed by the report of Arwen's journey to Rivendell, and he has requested that the heroes discover the source of the increased orc activity along the Misty Mountains. This mission has led the party south to Moria, but the doors of Durin are blocked by a deep, dark lake. As the heroes make their way around its waters, an ancient evil stirs from within its depths. A desperate battle begins, and the heroes must drive the creature away or find safety in the mines.
So, sounds very straightforward. This is kind of a fan-favorite scenario. We recently delivered Arwen Undomiel to the safety of Rivendell, and now we're back to Khazad-dum, a couple adventure packs removed from our deluxe expansion. So, to start things off, let us take a look at the decks Matthew and I are going to be playing today as we gear up for this boss fight. As ever, I'm the questing player. I've got Aragorn, Barivor, Frodo. Frodo and Aragorn are specifically to help me get a lot of action advantage. Frodo, because he can take undefended attacks, gain threat instead of dead hero. Aragorn, he can get multiple actions per round, and then that opens me up to using unexpected courage, because we're going to need some combat phase specific readying, and that certainly fits the bill there. Matthew and I are both leadership, which lets us use sneak attack, and we kind of have an unusual distribution of cards. Like, he and I each have a copy of Faramir, I've got a little bit of scrying, and then he and I both have a lot of cheap allies. Shadow cancellation isn't nearly as important as usual, but I've got a test of will, and primarily Matthew and I are going to be focused on dispatching a bunch of tentacle enemies, and then our really only other concern is going to be threat gain, which hopefully isn't going to be too much of a problem, considering Matthew and I have a pretty reasonable starting threat. But Matthew, how about yourself? What can we expect from you?
Well, my hero lineup is Dane, Gimli, and Thalon, so rocking the dwarves here. As you mentioned, we're both running leadership, obviously with Dane on my side, and so, probably typical smattering of leadership cards. Faramir, as you mentioned, Snowborn Scout, Sword That Was Broken. But then Gimli, the typical sort of tactics ally. So my deck isn't all that different, I think, than what you might expect. Ideally, if I draw Song of Kings or Steward of Gondor, I think Frodo will be a good target for that, so hopefully we see that early. And let's hope that the dwarves and your little smattering of rangers and hobbits over there can help us escape this ancient evil.
Yeah, this was kind of an odd scenario to approach deck building from, just because we need combat ability, but all the enemies are pretty low HP-wise. A lot of these cards are chosen specifically just because they can counter the specific tentacle enemies, which will become clear as Matthew and I keep going. But Feint is more important than ever. Hail of Stones is going to be one of those new cards that we'll hopefully get a little bit of use out of. But let me go ahead and minimize that, and now that we've, I suppose, taken a look at our decks, let's shuffle said decks and then draw our opening assortment of 6 cards. And let me see what I get. I'll ensure that Matthew is going to be able to see my hand. I'm tentatively fairly pleased with my opening hand. I guess Sneak Attack, Unexpected Courage, some reasonably cheap allies, even a tracker, but what about you?
I've got some cheap allies. I have Gandalf. I've got some events. I will probably hold on to it.
Yeah. Quick Strike is nice because it can get rid of those tentacle enemies. Like there's one that can do undefended attacks. So if you can kill it outright, that's great. Feint, if you can prevent it from attacking, that's also great. And Vassal of the Windlord is going to be fantastic against one tentacle enemy in particular. So, especially considering I've got Barivore, we may as well both keep our opening hands. Note that I'm the first player. I'm going to be the first person put into jeopardy of being asphyxiated by strangulating tentacles. But anyways, enough allusion to what may come, and let's see what we're up against. So...
Sounds like a typical Saturday night for you, Mitch.
I've not been to Japan in far too long. But anyways, so quest card 1A. Elrond has asked Matthew and I personally to scout the mines of Moria on our return to Lorien, hoping to discover if it is the source of increased orc activity along the Misty Mountains. That checks out with Matthew's preface for today's adventure. Our setup is removing the Watcher and Doors of Durin from the encounter deck and setting them aside out of play. Each of these cards has 3 victory points. We're going to need 3 victory points to be able to win the day. Doors of Durin is a 2-threat location. Let me just read the card. Progress tokens that would be placed on it are instead placed on the current quest card. So it doesn't have any progress token value itself. It is just basically a door preventing us from winning the current scenario. What's very unique about this unique location is each player can discard any number of cards from his hand as an action. Then they discard the top single card of the encounter deck. If the first letter of the encounter card's title matches that of one of the discarded player cards, you add the doors to your victory display, and then you have the requisite number of victory points to win the scenario. An example is, let's say I discard 5 cards from my hand. If the top card of the encounter deck is Grasping Tentacle, if one of my 5 cards was Gandalf or Glamdring or any G, then there's that match, and then Matthew and I collect this location. We can use scrying to use this, and this is kind of one of the victory conditions. There's non-combat, and then there is combat. So the Watcher, unique enemy, massive engagement cost, 4 threat, 5 attack, 7 defense, 9 hit points. It has Regenerate 2, so it heals 2 points of damage if it's damaged after passing the first player token during the refresh phase, before we have an action window. While there's another tentacle trait enemy in play, it cannot be optionally engaged, and if it's in the staging area at the end of the combat phase, each player has to pick a character and deal it 3 damage. So we'll have cheap allies. I've got Frodo, and Matthew and I each have a 5 hit point hero, just because we might have to stomach a little bit of damage on them. But that basically introduces our scenario. Flipping the quest card as I accidentally forget my keyboard shortcuts and pop out an encounter card. Anyway, flipping the quest card to side 1B, our approach is blocked by a dark lake that slumbers beneath the face of the cliffs. You must search for a way around the water. Instead of revealing a pair of encounter cards, Matthew and I have to reveal X threat. So we have to reveal enough cards that we have 4 threat in the staging area, twice the number of players in the game. So 2 times 2 is 4. So here we go, moment of truth. Encounter card number 1 is going to be a 2-threat card. This is Mountain Warg, which we should be familiar with. If it gets a shadow card with no effect, it is returned to the staging area after it attacks. That's going to be eligible to engage with Matthew. Encounter card number 2 is going to be the first of our tentacle enemies, and that's our 4-threat threshold. So all these tentacle enemies have very low engagement cost, hence why I didn't really care about threat building these decks. This is 3 attack, just 3 hit points, so it should be trivial for Matthew or myself to destroy. The trick with this one is they all have these interesting forced effects. When Grasping Tentacle is attacked, you discard the top card of the encounter deck. If that card has a shadow effect or is a tentacle enemy, you attach this card to the attacking character as an attachment with the text, the attacking character's attack and defense are 0. So that, shadow effect or tentacle trait requirement is going to be something we see on pretty much all these different tentacle cards, and something like 51% of the encounter deck meets these requirements. So that is going to be it, just 4 threat in the staging area, and we are now ready to start. So, Matthew, I feel like I've spoken enough. Shall we begin round number 1?
Let's do it.
All right, so resources and draw 1 card. I got the, Gandalf, half of my sneak attack plus Gandalf equation.
Okay.
I don't quite have the resources to play anything useful yet, but how about you?
Well, I could play stuff. The question is what? I think I'm going to play a vassal and leave it there.
Okay. I guess really the major thing that Matthew and I need to worry about is just ensuring that we can get some sort of foothold established against the encounter deck. Of course, clearing out all the tentacle enemies so that we can engage the Watcher as quickly as possible, and then just making sure that this Mountain Warg isn't too much of a problem. Because I've got sneak attack in Gandalf, that would potentially be a really simple solution to a couple of these enemies. The only small bummer here is I'm going to have to decide if I want to, say, I'm intending to commit Aragorn to the quest. Do I want to use his resource to ready him, or do I want to save it for sneak attack? I could maybe just use that really early on to get rid of that Mountain Warg, or something. But I suppose we'll have to see how that goes. And Vassal is great because it'll be a beautiful way to get around this Grasping Tentacle. But anyway, for committing characters to the quest, we're up against 4 threat. Threat gain isn't that big of a deal, but I definitely want to be sending Frodo to the quest. I could do Gandalf, or I could hold him back. Like I could do sneak attack during the combat phase, or something like that. I don't know. I guess, what are you thinking of sending to the quest?
I was only going to send Thalon.
Sure. I think the average pull, threat-wise, is going to be like 3.35 or so. I would potentially be, let's see, I guess there's no reason for me to be greedy. I can send Barivor as well. Maybe I'll hold back Aragorn, just because I think there are quite a lot of enemies that we're likely to pull. Yeah, I think I'll just do that. So,
okay. Grand
total of 6 committed to the quest. If we gain a little bit of threat, no big deal. There's nothing too nasty that'll trigger if we fail to quest successfully. So let's see what we pull. Encounter card number 1 is going to be a problem.
Ugh.
So Striking Tentacle is 4 attack. It's 2 threat. It'll take a point of damage from Thalon. When it attacks, you discard the top card of the encounter deck. If it meets that shadow effect or tentacle requirement, then its attack is undefended. We don't have to worry about, like, a lot of shadow effects that increase attack strength, so it is likely to only hit for 4, but Feint and Quick Strike are godsends against a critter like this one.
Mm-hmm. And that's honestly why I had some 2-cost allies, and I really wanted to play them, but I was like, I need to keep some resources free for my events, and I'm glad I did.
Right, perfect. And yeah, I suppose that is our first encounter card, so that means that we make, I guess we we have parity with the encounter deck, threat to willpower. And hey, when it rains, it pours. It's our other tentacle enemy. So Thrashing Tentacle. This one is also quite the problem. When it is attacked, you discard the top card of the encounter deck. If it meets the shadow effect or tentacle requirement, you deal the damage from your attack to a character that same attacking player controls, ignoring defense. So Gimli, if he swings for 10 or whatever, you could absolutely annihilate one of your other characters. Hopefully more so something like Vassal of the Windlord as opposed to Dane Ironfoot.
Right.
But it also takes a point of damage, and that is a crowded staging area. Wow. So I guess I'm glad that I've got that sneak attack combo. But 8 versus 6 means that we are going to fail to quest successfully, and we're going to gain a couple of points of threat. Just because there are clearly a lot of newer players that watch this series, note that it is absolutely impossible for me to use sneak attack to put Gandalf into play and then commit him to the quest or anything like that. A mistake that plagued one episode of the original Progression series. So,
I didn't think we ever made mistakes, but all right.
That's just you, Matthew. You're the one that doesn't make mistakes. I make plenty. It's because I never shut up. Travel phase.
Or read the card.
That too. As I function off of 90 minutes of sleep. All right. So travel phase, nothing. Encounter phase. This is where things are interesting. Yeah. So I suppose optional engagement and then engagement checks begin with me. Spoiler alert, I'm going to use Gandalf to destroy something. But where should these things go? Like, what tricks are you thinking of using to handle some of these?
Well, unfortunately, I only have one or the other. I could either feint or I could quick strike.
Right.
So, I mean, I could quick strike the striking tentacle with my with my vassal, and I think the vassal would actually. I guess he's still attacking though, huh?
Yeah.
Declare it as an attacker.
So,
he'd still go away, but
right.
It could at least kill a 4 attack strength enemy before it does anything to me.
Right. So,
assuming that there's no shadow. Oh, well, I'm not defending it, so it's just quick strike. So that's sort of my initial thought, is to quick strike the striking tentacle.
So I suppose my only thoughts to add to the discussion here is I'll be playing Gandalf. He can automatically destroy one enemy. I can block an attack, and then I can kill another enemy. Vassal of the Windlord, when it attacks and the attack resolves in full, it's discarded from play.
Yeah, I guess I could Gimli have Gimli quick strike the Thrashing Tentacle
possibly.
Instead. And then, what are you thinking of nuking? The Mountain Warg?
Well, I guess possibly, just because it might run away from us. So that is probably the best idea, just because I don't think there are a lot of shadow effects. Right, that too. I just wanted to point out for the viewers that if the vassal were to attack the Grasping Tentacle, let's say if we were to discard a card and it would convert to a tentacle attachment, then the attack of the vassal doesn't actually resolve and it is not removed from play. But, Gandalf could also attack a Grasping Tentacle and either kill it or it becomes an attachment, and then Gandalf is bounced back to my hand and the attachment is discarded. So I think maybe I should take the Warg and the Tentacle. For you could use either Feint or Quick Strike. What really sucks is there's no way to guarantee that the Thrashing Tentacle will be destroyed, so it's probably best that you maybe use like Feint or Quick Strike to destroy the Striking Tentacle, and then just block Thrashing.
Sounds good.
And I don't think we need to take undefended attacks quite yet. Right. So for optional engagement, why don't I take the Mountain Warg? You can take the Striking Tentacle. For engagement checks, I'll take a 12 threat engagement cost enemy, and then you can take the Thrashing Tentacle. And I believe that Mountain Warg is the only shadow effect that boosts attack strength. Let me click through really quick. I guess there's one example, and there's one card which would grant +3 attack strength, but that's still not the end of the world by any means. Okay, so at the beginning of combat, let me go ahead and distribute shadow cards, starting with me. And let's see, is it all of my enemies and then you?
That is correct.
Okay, it's been a little while since I've done this. Okay, so it goes like that. Highest engagement cost, starting with the first player, going to the left. Okay, all right, so we've got everything in front of us. I think I'm going to go ahead and spend my 1 leadership resource for sneak attack.
Enough! I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me.
I will put Gandalf into play. I will go ahead and target my Mountain Warg with Gandalf's ability. It's destroyed. It would have had a shadow effect, which meant that the Warg would have stayed with me, but that's a really crappy effect, considering I'm playing a 3-sphere deck. Glad it's gone. Okay, and then I suppose I've got to deal with my attacks first. I suppose, for what it's worth... Okay, so I've got Aragorn as a Sentinel Defender. I'm trying to think. I could take the Grasping Tentacle undefended and have Frodo take it as threat. I could block an enemy for you, and you could potentially kill both of the enemies that you've got. Deal the damage from the attack to one character the attacking player controls for the Thrashing Tentacle. So you could theoretically attack with Vassal of the Windlord, and it could kill itself, as opposed to damaging one of your heroes. Which wouldn't be the worst thing. We've already seen plenty of tentacle enemies, so I guess the odds are slightly in our favor of that effect not resolving. So why don't I maybe take this attack undefended? Or, well, okay. So you could do Quick Strike or Feint to eliminate the Striking Tentacle, and then you could block. I guess, yeah, there's no reason for me to take an undefended attack. Okay, so why don't I have Grasping Tentacle blocked by Aragorn? I will flip. Its shadow effect is going to be +1 attack. So Aragorn takes 2 points of damage. Mountain Warg is welcome to join the discard pile. And how about you? What do you want to do?
All right, so I'm definitely going to Quick Strike. And you said you think which one is best to try to do?
I guess just kill the Striking Tentacle because it might force you to do undefended attacks.
Okay, I think I agree. So, and then it only needs 2 more points of damage.
Right.
So
you just have to hit it for 3. Which is Gimli or...
Yep, let's just do Gimli, I think.
Sure. All right, Gimli swings, and the Striking Tentacle is killed. I suppose when it attacks... you didn't start enemy attack resolution or whatever. That was before the Quick Strike, I mean, anyways.
Yep.
Okay, so its shadow card would have done nothing, but we won't be discarding a card yet, so who knows if it would have done an undefended attack or not, but that's why you've got a 5 HP hero. That's why I had a 5 HP hero. So that shadow card is gone. For the Thrashing Tentacle, how do you want to deal with its incoming attack of 3?
I'll have Dane defend.
Okay, sure thing. So Gimli was able to capitalize upon that attack strength boost before Dane became exhausted. Flipping the shadow card, another tentacle enemy. Again, it's nice to see this in the discard pile. I think there are 3 copies of each, or maybe there are 4.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And then how do you want to respond?
Okay, so I don't take any damage,
Right.
and
3
your
and 3.
attack is first.
Oh, yeah. Again, feels like it's been a little while since I've done this. Gandalf is going to be attacking the Grasping Tentacle. When it's attacked, I discard the top card of the encounter deck. So let's see what that card is. It is this Wrapped card. So it has the Tentacle trait, but it's not a tentacle enemy. So this is not going to be attached to Gandalf. Gandalf will destroy it. So let me discard that card, discard the Grasping Tentacle, discard the Shadow card. I suppose that's it for me. How about you?
And then I will use my Vassal against mine.
All right. So when it is attacked, discard the top card of the encounter deck. And let's see. It does have a shadow effect.
Yeah.
So that means that you have to deal the damage from the attack to one character the attacking player controls, ignoring
Vassal,
defense.
you're going to kill yourself.
And it was going to be discarded anyways, so I guess rest in peace, Vassal. You were not long for this world. Thrashing Tentacle hangs out, but I guess that brings us to the end of the combat phase.
Yep.
Gandalf bounces back to my hand. We discard that Shadow card, and Thrashing Tentacle survives.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, bummer. But I guess let's Control R to refresh. You are now the first player. And let's draw cards and do resources once again. So I now have a couple of spirit resources. If you want, I could do Unexpected Courage, or instead I could toss out some ally. What do you think you might want?
I mean, Unexpected Courage is certainly nice. Gimli's a good target for that. Even Dane's a good target for that, in case I've got to defend with him and then need an attack boost or something.
For only 2. Or, I mean, I guess what's also nice about Dane is he would be swinging against possibly the Thrashing Tentacle for only 2. So if that effect triggers again, it's, the minimum amount of damage that you have to deal with.
Right. But allies are nice too, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. I guess we're not up against a ton of threat. There's some Doomed 5 cards in the encounter deck. Maybe I should have... Well, I won't have the You've still got a Feint, and you've now got another trick. I wonder if... And I guess in some sort of horrible situation, I could also use Gandalf. I wonder if I should use Barivor yet or next turn to see if I can maybe pull Steward of Gondor. I guess there's no real need to do that yet. Oh, God. There aren't any treacheries that are super, super nasty. I think, why don't I spend 2 resources and do Unexpected Courage for you? Okay. I guess a worst case scenario is we'll have Gimli as a very powerful quester and attacker.
Okay.
So I'll toss that over to your side, and I think that's all for me for now.
Okay. I'm also sort of similarly torn. I don't know whether I should put an ally out. I don't have particularly great events, though Feint is handy. I drew the new one, Hail of Stones.
Before I have you go, I am going to trigger Barivor, just on the off chance that I draw a couple of my lore allies. Okay, well, I suppose you're going to be playing some dwarves in the near future.
Could be, yeah.
So I've got a Legacy of Durin just to keep in mind. So I won't play it yet, but definitely, well, I guess maybe next turn you're going to be playing a dwarf. Why don't I just play it now? So Legacy of Durin on whichever one of your heroes you would like. And that'll help get you some additional cards.
I I mean, I guess the question is, do I foresee Feint or Hail of Stones, probably not Hail of Stones at this point, but Feint being worthwhile this round, or is it better to get my Veteran Axe Hand out? Or even Winged Guardian?
I suppose no matter what, like Thrashing Tentacle, if you have to just continue letting it attack, Dane can take that no matter what. Veteran Axe Hand might be the better option.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do it.
And then
plus I get a card.
Yeah. And we've seen so many enemies, I suppose the odds of us getting locations are higher and higher. And great, you got a spearman, so there are some enemies that we can kill with that, combo.
Right.
I guess the only thing that I would maybe suggest is for Legacy of Durin, you might not want to put it on Thalon, just because there's the Black Uruks, where it's if the first player, it's something like the first player has to discard an attachment from a questing character, so it might be safer on Dane, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. But anyway, I think we are... I think what we've decided to do is probably fine. Okay. Shall we commit characters?
I'm going to be sending Thalon. I guess I could send Gimli as well.
Sure. So you can do 5. I will do Frodo, and maybe I will save Aragorn. So that'll be a grand total of 7. And I think I'm okay with that. Again, we're only expecting maybe 3 or 4. And we're in no rush to have the Watcher pop out and start dealing us damage. So let's see what we pull. Encounter card number 1 is going to be the first player must discard 3 resources from each hero he controls. It's kind of a bummer because you were almost at the point where you can do Sword That Was Broken. But I'm glad that you played your Axe Hand, so that kind of sucks. I can't cancel it.
Yeah.
Encounter card number 2 is going to be Wrapped. So the first player attaches Wrapped to a hero he controls. It's a tentacle attachment, limit 1 per hero. The hero cannot exhaust or ready. At the end of the round, discard attached hero from play, but as a combat action, you can exhaust another hero without Wrapped to discard Wrapped.
Okay.
So you can kind of, I guess, put that on anybody, and yeah, I mean, not that I'm suggesting you could do this, but I suppose you could theoretically even put it on Gimli and then use, like a combat action before Gimli has to do attacking or something, so plenty of options there. But that was a pretty weak staging, and I guess as a result, we end up making 7 progress, which I'm not thrilled about, but whatever. And there's no travel, there's no encountering for combat, just 1 shadow card for that Thrashing Tentacle. What do you want to do with that one?
Well, let's have Dane defend.
Sure, and then Veteran Axe Hand or Gimli will only be attacking for 2. Okay, so flipping that, it's going to be attacking for 4, so Dane will take 1 point of damage. And now, I suppose you'll have to attack in return.
Yep, and I'll attack with the Axe Hand.
Sure, which leaves Gimli open to get rid of Wrapped. Okay, so let's discard the top card of the encounter deck, and it is not... So no shadow effect, no tentacle enemy, which means we do not, change the recipient of that attack. So Makeshift Passage is discarded, Thrashing Tentacle is destroyed, and Mountain Warg is discarded as a shadow card. And I suppose, what else for the combat phase?
Yep, I've got to do the combat action here on Wrapped, so exhaust a hero you control without a tentacle to discard it.
Beautiful. So Gimli handily cleaves the tentacle wrapped around Thalon. Excellent. So let us refresh. I'm at 33 threat. You're at 34. I'll grab the first player token. Let's do resources yet again. I got another copy of Legacy of Durin. I will have Baravor draw myself another pair of cards. I got a scrying effect here in Hinamarth. So I'll spend one resource, put Hinamarth into play. I've got Gandalf's Aplenty, no locations for a Matham. So I don't really have anything that I can play yet. That Steward of Gondor would be great. But anyways, how about you?
Well, I got Citadel Plate, which is awesome. However, that's not going to get played for a while. I mean, I could do a Gondorian Spearman, Wing Guardian. I think I'm just going to sort of hold off, honestly.
Well, Gondorian Spearman wouldn't be the worst thing, just because we do have those Uruks that we could pull.
Yeah.
Let me see when their ability triggers. So Black Uruks, okay, their effect is when revealed. And they do only attack for 3, so they're not really that big of a deal. Yeah, if you want, you can just hang on to what you've got. You're not in danger of losing resources, so you could use Halo Stones to get rid of something. So, yeah, I think holding on to your resources is totally fine.
Cool.
Okay, and nothing from me. So for committing characters to the quest, I guess there's, we can send whatever. There's no real reason to hold back. There's no real reason to push super far forward. If we do engage with the Watcher, we can just start Gandalfing the hell out of it. I guess, who do you want to send?
Well, Thalon for sure.
Okay.
Do we need Gimli?
No, not really. I'll send Frodo. I don't really need to send Hinamarth, but I guess I could. And that's 5. That's probably enough. Between the two of us, I mean.
Okay.
Okay, so I've sent 3, you've sent 2. Let's see what we reveal. So encounter card number 1 is going to be Perilous Swamp, a 4-threat location. It's kind of a pain. Only 1 progress token per round for that one. Encounter card number 2 is going to be those Black Uruks. So they take a point of damage. The first player must choose and discard an attachment from a questing character if able. I suppose the only characters committed to the quest do not have attachments, because it tells me to discard a card. It's not like a character I control necessarily, so I suppose it's good that we did not send Gimli.
Yeah.
We are going to be gaining 1 threat because, 5 willpower versus 6 threat, but not that big of a deal. And for travel, let's go to Perilous Swamp for sure.
Yep.
And engagement, I guess you've got Dane. Do you want the Uruks?
Sure.
All right, so they are yours. For combat, they get a shadow card. And how do you want to deal with that?
I will have Dane defend.
All right, Dane defends. Shadow card, again, nice. Awesome to see this in the discard pile. Let me see if it's 3 or 4. Yeah, it's 4 copies of each tentacle, so I think there's just 1 of those left in the encounter deck.
Cool.
Dane takes no damage. And what else?
Gimli and the Axe Hand will attack.
Great. So, combined total of 4 points of damage is just enough to kill this 3 defense enemy. It's gone. Striking Tentacle is gone. And now our playing area is pretty clear. I guess let's just refresh and keep on going.
Yeah, I suppose I could have used Hail of Stones to exhaust somebody to kill him in the staging area to make some progress. I just didn't really feel that spending that resource was super necessary.
Yeah, it's, I think, much better spent on Thrashing Tentacle or something like that. I guess, well, even the Watcher, we could bypass its... I kind of forgot that it has 7 defense. But if you exhaust some characters with Hail of Stones, if we drop a Gandalf, that damage adds up very quickly, and bypassing that 7 defense is huge. Okay, so I will refresh, and you have the first player token. I'll draw a card and do my resources. Let's see.
I'm going to spend 2 leadership resources to give you Celebrian Stone.
You know, I actually drew a copy this round.
Oh, did you?
So
did
you
I.
might want to save yours for the sword.
Okay.
But thank you.
Sure. And then, is the Citadel plate necessary? I guess is the question.
Not really.
No, but really nothing in my hand is.
I guess the only thing Citadel plate would be useful against would be having Gimli, like, take an attack from the Watcher and then swinging in return.
Right.
Which isn't bad by any means.
No.
And now there's 1 fewer Uruk, which makes Gondorian Spearmen less necessary.
Yeah.
You are in danger of losing resources because of that card now, Bitter Winds.
Yeah. We do need to remember that when the Watcher's in the staging area at the end of combat, and we can't engage until he's 48, we have to deal 3 damage to a character. So that means allies, we need to have a little bevy of allies here to take that.
Right.
Although
there's also no, like, Necromancer's Reach or anything like that, so if Thalon takes 3 or Barivor takes 3, they're fine.
Yeah, it just can only happen so many times.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and play Citadel Plate just as sort of a proactive measure.
Sure. Seems
I don't know that
smart.
Yeah. And that's it for me.
Okay, so our threat is getting a little high, but I do have the Galadrim's Greeting to use at some point. I'll have Barivor draw myself a couple of cards. I got a Cancel Shadow. I also got a Lure of Moria, which could help you kind of rally and annihilate the Watcher. So that's kind of nice to see. No Steward for either of us, though. And let's see. I guess I could do Calabrian Stone. There's no real reason not to. So I can put Calabrian Stone onto Aragorn, and now I've got 3 spirit resources. I think I will just kind of hang on to those for the moment. Although I've also got Ancient Matham, which I could set up for the following turn. Let's see. You're the first player, so I don't need to worry about losing resources yet. So I'll hold off on Ancient Matham, and okay, let's, I guess, just see what happens. I'm not going to play allies yet. Okay, so for committing characters to the quest, we can only make 1 progress, which kind of stinks.
Yeah, so I'll send Thalon.
Okay, and I'll do, I think, the exact same as I did last time, and let's just see what happens. We both have plenty of Gandalfs, and if we need to, we can use that as a threat reduction. Okay, so again, we will send a grand total of 5. Let's see. Yeah, I guess there's no real reason to send Gimli. So let's just see what happens. Encounter card number 1 is going to be Thrashing Tentacle, which might be a decent target for that Hail of Stones. Encounter card number 2 is going to be Striking Tentacle.
Oh my.
Getting rid of all of these. Okay, so that means we're going to be up against 4 threat. We will make 1 progress. We can only make 1 progress on Perilous Swamp. And for travel, there's nothing for the encounter phase. What do we want to do here? You could take both, or I could take 1, or you could take both, and I could defend 1 for you. But I suppose, shall I... What are you wanting to do?
Well, I don't have any resources to do any fun little tricks. It doesn't matter, I don't think.
Sure. So I guess Striking Tentacle we don't really need to worry about because Gimli has Citadel Plate.
Yeah.
And then the Thrashing Tentacle, you could use Dane or anything.
Yeah.
So let's see. And yeah, I guess I don't really need to defend for you. So let's just drop some shadow cards like this. How do you want to do Striking Tentacle? The 4 attack.
Yep. I'll have Gimli defend.
All right. So, well, I suppose before I ask you to do a defender, so the steps of enemy attack resolution start with choose an enemy, and that is when it attacks. So I guess before you pick a defending character, let's discard the top card of the encounter deck, see if it has a shadow effect or is a tentacle. It is no shadow effect, not a tentacle enemy, so it can be blocked if you want.
Yep. Gimli.
All right, so Gimli will block. Gimli will take 2 points of damage. And how about Thrashing Tentacle?
And I'll have Dane do that one.
Okay, so... Well, actually, I guess Striking Tentacle, let me flip its shadow card. Defending player must discard 2 resources from each hero. So, rest in peace to leadership resources. Okay, Thrashing Tentacle, though, attacks Dane. Its shadow card is nothing. Nice to see a Warg Layer gone. Dane takes no damage. That shadow effect on Striking Tentacle I discarded prematurely. But anyway, and then attacking in response.
Gimli will attack the striking.
Okay, so Gimli swings for 4, which is enough to kill it exactly. Sorry, I guess he overkills it by 1, yeah. And then a Thrashing Tentacle.
Axe Hand.
Okay, so the Axe Hand swings. Let's discard another card. It has a shadow effect, so that means 2 points of damage to a character you control.
Honestly, I think I'm going to do it to Gimli.
Sure. I mean, he's got plenty of a reservoir there.
Yeah.
And if I could...
But that dang thing sticks around.
Let's see. Oh, geez. I did not mean to add this card to the staging area. I'm going to just shuffle it into the encounter deck. I can't seem to get... Oh, there we go. Arrow is gone. Okay, so Thrashing Tentacle is still alive. I don't have any ranged characters to attack it myself. What a frustrating little enemy, but at the end of the combat phase, we discard that shadow card. I guess let's refresh.
Yeah.
You're up to 38. I'm at 36. I will draw 1 card, which is good to see. I'll have Barivore draw myself another pair of cards. One of those, well, I guess they are both sneak attack, which is great, considering we'll want to either damage the Watcher or destroy tentacle enemies so that we can engage the Watcher. Let's see. Yeah, it can't be engaged while there are other tentacles in play, not just in the staging area. So who knows? Maybe I'll nuke a Thrashing Tentacle or something. But I'll do 1 lore resource for Erebor Record Keeper. And then apart from that, I don't think I'll do anything.
Okay.
And how about you?
I don't really know what to do either, but losing resources sucks. I think I'm just going to play Gondorian Spearman. Okay.
There's not a lot of great reasons to hold on to resources. Pretty much everything the Spearman...
I've lost 5 leadership ones already.
That's
I think.
Irritating.
Yeah, 4 or 5.
But oh well. The Spearman... Yeah, I mean, you've got plenty of defenders, so having, like, feint as an option isn't critical. And I guess, you know, if you needed a blocker, there's the Spearman itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, I guess for questing, who do we want to send? It wouldn't hurt, I guess, if we if we do push through and fight the Watcher, if it isn't clear, I think Matthew and I both probably prefer to win by combat versus using the Doors of Durin, even if I can kind of cheese it with Hinemarth here. So I guess I can send... why don't I? Maybe I'll save a resource for sneak attack, just in case things go crazy. So I will send 5, and what do you want to do?
I can send my 2.
Sure. Alrighty, so maybe next round we'll push through, but let's see what happens here. So total of 7 willpower committed to the quest, and countercard number 1 is going to be yet another Thrashing Tentacle. And countercard number 2 is going to be all enemies in the staging area engage the player with the highest threat, which is you. Then each player raises his threat by the total threat of all cards in the staging area, which is 0. So Thrashing Tentacle engages with you. I have got no reason to cancel this. And then we do not raise our threat, so thank you, Softball of the Century and countercard. This 12 engagement cost enemy was coming down to us whether we wanted it to or not. And I guess that means we will make a total of 7 progress. Shame it's not 1 more. Well, I guess that's not... because there are so many tentacles in play, that's not necessarily a good thing. But anyways, you have sent, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 out of the 13 progress. Perilous Swamp is gone, and I guess no travel. It's weird that we've only had the 1 location.
Yeah.
And then for shadow cards, it doesn't really matter what order I put them in.
Yep.
How do we want to resolve these? And
one of them will be Gondorian Spearman.
Okay. So Gondorian Spearman, well, I guess let me do it like this. I'll go ahead and flip a shadow card, so Doomed 5 is gone, but unfortunately your Spearman is going to be quite dead.
Yep.
And
then Dane will do the next one.
Sure. So 3 defense versus... Yep, no shadow effect, so Dane takes no damage. And then for attacking in return...
Veteran will do the more wounded one, not that it matters.
Sure. So, a moment of truth. Discarding a card, it does have a shadow effect.
Oh, son of a gun.
Yep. So...
I'll put it on Thalon.
Okay, Felon takes 2.
And this... Alright, Gimli will do the other one. Not that it matters.
Sure. So Gimli swings at this one, and let's see... Good. Not a tentacle enemy, no shadow effect, so Thrashing Tentacle takes 6 points of damage, and it is outright destroyed.
Yep.
Oh, and I guess I screwed up the order of those discarded cards. So that card was discarded, then Thrashing Tentacle, then the Shadow card. And then I guess into the combat round, the other Shadow card is gone.
Can Gimli ready and then attack this other one? Or it's already been attacked?
Yeah, you've
so
already
it can't
declared the one attack.
Never mind.
Yep.
Dumb question.
Although I think if it was a ranged character, you could have it declare its own attack and then participate. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway,
okay.
Yeah, never mind about what I was saying. But anyway, refresh. There's your first player token. You're at 39 threat. One of our Doomed 5 cards is gone. I've drawn a card. I'll have Beravor draw myself another couple of cards. And still no Steward. But what are you thinking of doing?
I'm not going to play anything.
Oh, and I guess as it turns out, you are the one with Steward of Gondor in your deck. I do not have it in mine. Well done, Mitch. I guess if it's not clear, I made this deck like 6 weeks ago. So anyways, I should have been having you draw those cards. But, and you're not doing anything?
Nope.
Okay. So I don't think that I did my resources. So I will do those now. and I've got 5 spirit resources. Okay, I will do 2 off of Frodo for Arwen Undomiel.
Cool.
And I guess now that I think about it, the previous round I should have maybe done Ancient Matham, but oh well. And I think that's it for me. I'm able to do sneak attack if need be, and yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, cool. Thalen for the win.
Okay, so we only need to make 1 progress. I'll send a fair few characters. You've got resources, but you're also the first player, but I've also got cancellation.
Cool.
So maybe I'll also send Frodo, just because I really want us to pass the quest at this point. So I'm sending 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 myself, which kind of seems like a lot, but whatever. Okay. So I'll send 7. You make it a total of 9. Let's see what we pull. So, encounter card number 1 is going to be Black Uruks. The first player must choose and discard an attachment from a questing character if able. There
I can't.
are no options between either of us. Encounter card number 2 is Doomed 5. But I do have Gladrum's Greeting to play next turn. Okay, man, 44 threat. That sucks.
Yep.
Okay, but that means that 2 threat versus, I guess we sent a total of, I sent 7, so 9, 7. Our little quest.
Did you raise your threat 5?
Card. No, I don't think I did. Thank you. So I'm at 42 now.
Yep.
And there's just 1 more Doomed 5 card in the remaining 12 cards. Let's see. So, yeah, I guess we'll have to be mindful for maybe using Gandalf to drop threat. But next turn I can do that Gladrum's Greeting thing for you. So,
cool.
We've passed our current quest card. We transition to quest phase 2A. The others swung round and saw the waters of the lake seething, as if a host of snakes were swimming up from the southern end. Quote from the Fellowship of the Ring there. The doors of Durin are blocked by an ancient spell. You must figure out a way into the mines before the seething bog and its watcher consumes you all. Nice use of the word seething twice on the same card. This is when revealed, add the Watcher to the staging area. So there's the Watcher. Doors of Durin becomes the active location, moving any previous active location to the staging area. Shuffle all tentacle cards in the discard pile back into the encounter deck. 5 quest points. We need 3 victory points to win. So the Doors of Durin is our active location. If we want, we can discard cards from hand. Each player, limit once per round, can do that, and then we, do the look at the top card of the encounter deck thing. Because I've got Hinamarth, if we want, we can easily kind of cheese that effect. But it's a lot more fun to kill the Watcher.
Yeah.
So, before we leave the quest phase here, I could do Sneak Attack Gandalf to kill your Thrashing Tentacle, and then you could engage the Watcher.
Okay.
And then we could start plugging away at it. Would probably, yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'll just do this during, say, the travel phase or something.
Well, do you want to do it during combat and take down the Uruk yourself and have Gandalf deal with them?
Let me see. I guess engagement has to happen before combat.
Right.
So there's no way for me to have Gandalf in play to deal with the Uruk. I could defend against it, no problem.
And then Aragorn could attack it.
Yeah, I just there's no way for me to. So it's, the engagement.
If you sneak him in at the beginning of combat, that automatically puts the damage on the tentacle, and then you have him as a body to deal with the Uruk, which you're going to engage.
Right. The only issue is the Watcher can't leave the staging area until this thrashing tentacle is dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I could quick strike right now. That's why I did it. So let me just do that.
Oh, okay. And I guess I forgot quick strike is not a combat action.
Yeah. Okay. So Gimli is going to do it, and it's dead, basically.
Yeah, sure. So, well, actually, I guess we still have to do its forced effect.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, shit. No, Gimli can still take it, so we're fine.
Well, and then the only other thing is before we resolve this effect, I've got to do that shuffle all tentacle cards back into the encounter deck. So the likelihood of that resolving is going to be really low.
Shuffle all tentacle cards. Would that include this one?
In the encounter discard pile.
Oh, discard pile. Learn to read the cards, Matthew. Okay. So yeah, then do that part first.
Okay, yeah, so all tentacle cards.
Horrible.
So one copy thrashing tentacle, striking tentacle, that, and another copies are wrapped, more tentacles. Okay, and then another copy of wrapped, so that is all of them, and I don't know how many cards that is. Let's see. Okay, so the encounter deck is now, it gained like 50%, whatever. So I think the safest course of action is probably to use that Gandalf thing. I can have Aragorn block the Uruks or whatever.
Okay.
So, anyways, so why don't I go ahead and just use that one leadership resource? I'll do sneak attack.
Enough! I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me.
I'll drop out Gandalf just to ensure that the stupid thrashing tentacle is killed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's destroyed. Sneak attack is gone. Gandalf will bounce back to my hand at the end of the travel phase or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
For engagement, I can optionally engage the Black Uruks. You can engage with the Watcher.
Yep.
And now let's go ahead and start up combat. So I will give a shadow card to the Watcher, shadow card to Black Uruks. There are no tentacle enemies in play. And the Watcher is not in the staging area, so we don't have to worry about it damaging characters. It's got ridiculous defense, but at least it's not going to have any goofy effect. So I guess you were first player. How do you want to deal with the Watcher's inbound attack?
I'm going to defend with Gimli.
Okay, so Gimli's still got 5 HP, and he has 2 defense. I do not have a cancel shadow effect.
We could say, even though it's sort of retcon, that Arwen gave him another one.
Oh, yeah, I guess I forgot to activate Arwen's ability here. I would have picked Dane as the recipient of that.
No biggie. He's not going to defend.
And let me just glance at our encounter cards here. So the only attack boost, I guess ill purpose, is still in the discard pile. That would have potentially resulted in a dead Gimli. Mountain Warg, there are 3 copies, and that would only give a +1 attack boost. If it swings for 6, Gimli would still be alive, so you should be totally safe in defending.
Heard that before, but let's see how it goes.
Yeah, so anyway, the Watcher swings no shadow effect, and Gimli takes a bunch of damage, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Nope.
God, yeah, Gimli, 7 damage, so he has 10 attack strength. That is nuts. And it's a shame I can't do Lure of Moria. But anyway, from my attack, I will have Aragorn. God, Kind of funny how I don't think I've sent him to the quest one time, even though he's got Calabrian Stone on him.
Yeah.
Some suboptimal play in this game, but whatever. Black Uruk's attack, Aragorn defends, Grasping Tentacle, I'm cool to see that in the discard pile. I did not mean to discard that shadow card. Little premature there. But anyway, so that's the shadow card. Okay, so Aragorn takes another point of damage. He's just got 2 HP left. Now it's your opportunity to attack in return.
Okay.
And what are you doing?
I'm going to attack with Gimli and Veteran Axe Hand.
Okay. Looks like a total of 13 minus 7 is going to be 6 points of damage. So it's just shy. If we... hey, Matthew, it's no longer like the travel phase. So why don't I spend 1 leadership resource and do sneak attack?
Enough! I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me.
And drop Gandalf into play.
Hey.
Gandalf can target the Watcher for 4 points of damage.
Dang.
And that means that the Watcher is added to our victory display. I was bummed out that it was going to regenerate there. So the Watcher is destroyed. Its shadow card is gone. Sneak attack is discarded. I guess Black Uruks have attacked, and now I can attack.
Yeah.
I'll swing. I'll kill Black Uruks with Gandalf. Its shadow card is gone. End of combat. Gandalf bounces back to my hand.
What do you know?
Not too bad. Okay, cool. That worked out better than expected.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm glad I caught that because I did not want to have to read about it in the comments. Refresh.
And of course I just drew Khazad. Go figure.
Yeah. Well, dwarves are terrible anyway, so...
I know.
Okay, so we've done refresh, I've done resources. Matthew is now in danger of threatening out. But here's the thing, there are 2 doomed 5 cards left in the encounter deck, I think. Wait, no. One is... Let me glance at the discard pile. Maybe there's just 1 left in there. Yeah, there's just 1 left. And because I'm a dirty cheater, let me look at the contents of the encounter deck. Yes, there is indeed just 1 left. So we only need to do 5 resources. Why don't I just do this as a small flourish? So Doors of Durin. Each player can discard any number of cards from hand, then discard the top card of the encounter deck. I'm going to use Hinnamarth Riversong to look at the top card of the encounter deck, which is Stagnant Creek, which starts with an S.
All right, then I will take an action and discard a card.
Great, Sword That Was Broken. I guess we did finally end up with enough resources to play that.
I'm going to play a friend, I think.
Yeah, and I guess I don't even have enough... I don't have a card that starts with S, so thank you for doing that. All right, so you've discarded 1 card. I guess let's check that top card of the encounter deck. Hey, wouldn't you know it, it starts with S. So Sword That Was Broken, Stagnant Creek. That means we're going to add Doors of Durin to the victory display, and we've now got 6 victory points out of the required 5. Stagnant Creek is discarded. Now we just need 5 quest points to win the day. And I guess I will do 1, 2, 3 resources. Galadrim's Greeting to drop you by... Well... I guess, are you going to do what I assume you're going to do?
Yep.
Okay, then I will drop myself to 37 threat. And go ahead and do your thing.
Okay. I'm going to play Gandalf for 5.
Enough! I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me.
Awesome.
I'm going to lower my threat by 5.
And again, because I'm a dirty cheater, I am going to drop an Erebor Hammersmith into play, which I'll have done before you played Gandalf.
Cool.
Okay, and you have decreased your threat. I've got another 2 willpower ally in play. I guess committing characters to the quest, big scary staging area out there. I guess I'm just going to send everybody. No reason for me not to.
Okay.
So I guess, shall we just reveal some cards?
Let's do it.
Okay. Encounter card number 1 is going to be Knees of the Mountain. After an enemy engages a player, I guess we can stop reading right there. The enemy gets an attack boost. Encounter card number 2, Striking Tentacle. So I guess in the Watcher's death throes, I guess it can't be totally dead, or maybe brain activity is not quite yet ceased. Maybe there's some still, like some lingering electrical activity in the thrashing tentacles. Striking Tentacle is out. We're up against a total of 4 threat. I've sent 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 14 willpower. What did you send?
I sent 9.
Okay, so that makes
it does take a
23.
damage for whatever that's worth.
Oh, that's right.
Not that it matters.
Yeah, so looks like a total of 23 minus 4 is going to be 19. 2 on my keyboard is not F2. So we've got 19 out of the 5 required progress tokens. If we'd have used a sword that was broken, that would have added a ton of willpower to my side of the table. But, you know, why not rub salt into the Watcher's wound? That water looked awfully brackish in the film. So, Matthew, 19 out of 5 means we've got something around 390% or so. I guess 380% of the required resources. Yet again, 1 shot, 1 kill, scenario defeated. The progression series marches on. What are your thoughts about the Watcher in the water?
You know, I remember it being a lot harder than it happened to be this particular playthrough. I think we dealt with the tentacles pretty nicely. Certainly there's a lot of damage on my side of the table. There's a little bit on your side. The Watcher was basically just a fly sort of buzzing around our heads, thanks to Gandalf. And of course, you know, Gimli taking that huge hit and then just pounding back. Gimli is still a powerhouse of a hero. It was fun to do both victory conditions, I suppose. I don't even know if we've done the Doors of Durin thing before, or if I've done it before, but hey, I've done it now. So I have fonder memories of this quest than this particular playthrough sort of exhibited. It certainly can be hard, and I've certainly lost it, but it was fun, I think, to go back and play it. I still think it's a decent quest. I still think it's good. Those tentacles can be quite annoying. And they have interesting effects. So I had a good time. What about you?
Well, I will not lie. Back when I would always, play LOTR, play each new adventure pack as soon as it was released, I was always kind of a play it once and beat it, and then just kind of forget about the quest, talk about it on the Cardboard of the Rings podcast, and that's pretty much it. This scenario I've actually played much more than most, and this is probably the most interesting playthrough I've ever had of this scenario, just because I've never encountered so many tentacle enemies. I've never had their effects trigger so many times, like those thrashing tentacles. Mm-hmm. No matter how powerful our decks were, you can't really work around that effect. Like, there's direct damage, of course, but even if, you'd have been attacking for 1,000 or something, you still have to tolerate that damage circumvention. So it was cool to see the encounter deck actually put up what felt like a little bit of a struggle. I don't know if there was necessarily a lot of tension, just because in the early game, that sneak attack Gandalf kind of made our beginning board very doable. But this was kind of a cool playthrough. I'm glad that we caught it on camera. I guess knock on wood. Let's hope there's no horrible technical difficulties that destroy this video. But I think this was a nice way of showcasing what this encounter deck can put against the players. Just because it sucks if, you mentioned the Doors of Durin. I think I've had the option of doing that before, but I've just chosen not to because it feels like it's just very cheap.
it should have you shuffle the encounter deck or something.
Yeah, something like that.
But then it gets probably, yeah.
I mean, there's that horrible riddles quest coming
Right.
up eventually that is a nightmare where you're totally just guessing in the dark at what that letter is. But, at this point, I had 12 cards in hand. You had 7 cards in hand. Way back in the day, I think breaking it down statistically, like, there's... Striking Tentacle is S, and Stagnant Creek is also S, so it's like maybe 15% of the cards in the encounter deck start with S, 8% start with G, so you can kind of hedge your bets a little bit. So the Doors of Durin, it's cool having alternative victory conditions. It's not perfect by any means, but, in the second adventure pack cycle, the developers are still figuring out the game. They're still figuring out who's actually going to be developing the game in the long term. I don't know if it was Lucas Litzinger that was responsible for most of this stuff at this point.
It was.
Yeah. So Nate French was probably kind of taking the back seat, but it's a cool scenario. It's a fan favorite for a reason, but that's pretty much all I've got to say about it. Bit of a blunder with digging for a Steward of Gondor that did not exist in my deck. But hopefully next time there'll be less lag time between designing the decks and actually using the things. But any final thoughts, Matthew?
Yeah, just as a side note, Steward of Gondor was 10 cards deep for me, and then the other 2 were at the bottom. So it would have been a long time without Beravor. The only other thing that was frustrating was that dang card that got rid of resources and just really hampered plays of leadership cards. But I will say, maybe where my deck was in my favors, I didn't have very many in my hand. So it wasn't like I was flooded with leadership and couldn't play it. So that was good. But yeah, this was a fun quest. And... what do we have coming up next? I'm drawing a blank. I think it's a little less fun.
It is fan favorite The Long Dark with locate tests, which are, man, talk about...
There's something about the 4th quest, Em and Wheel, and then this one just sort of being duds.
Yeah, I guess I can't, off the top of my head, think of what Against the Shadow Quest 4 is. Is that Assault on Osgiliath?
I think so, which I think is also sort of a dud.
Which was where the original Progression series died. So, man, those 4th scenarios, yuck. But I guess, Matthew, we've come to the end of this video. Please plug your podcast so that listeners know how to hashtag engage with your hashtag content.
Well, I would love it if each and every one of you would check out the Gray Company podcast, where host Dan, Derek, Ian, and myself discuss the Lord of the Rings LCG in depth, focusing on strategy, deck building, and the metagame.
Excellent. It's highly recommended. Go ahead and give it a listen. I am still the Hive Tyrant on Facebook and Twitter, even though I increasingly hate that username. But as the loneliest man on Middle-earth, be sure to leave a comment on this video, engage with me, let me know what you think about the Watcher in the Water, the Dwarrowdelf cycle, your love life, career prospects, whatever. Again, desperately lonely here.
Certainly let us know what mistakes we made. Those are our favorite comments.
Please, yes, let us know. There was a very interesting mistake that came up in the Conflict at the Carrick video recently, where Grim Bayorn actually changes what player controls him thanks to his little ownership effect being passive, and that was a lesson that I've learned, and certainly I've been away from the community long enough that I no longer... Well, I'm a better player than I was, but I'm sure there's plenty of suboptimal play, and if there are outright mistakes, please let us know, even though YouTube no longer lets us add annotations to videos. Live and learn, I guess. So, thank you for watching. Matthew, thank you for joining me for another installment. The Long Dark player card review is up next. Foundations of Stone is number 5. That's the Cool Kid Adventure Pack.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, that's number 5. So, number 4 is maybe a bit of a dud, but hey, number 5 is going to be great. So, thank you for watching, take care, and check back in again soon for more LOTR LCG.